Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to So What, the Marketing Analytics and Insights live show from Trust Insights. I am Chris. John is here with me. Katie is off this week. She is at the Marketing AI Conference, MACON workshop presenters briefing. She'll be doing a half-day workshop on all things Claude. So the Claude for Business workshop. So they are working out how that's going to go, which is why she can't be with us today. So today's episode, we're talking about automating content transformation. We talked about this in the podcast earlier this week, but in the age of AI, there is no reason why any piece of content can't become any other piece of content, especially if it is human-led to begin with. So our guinea pig, crash test dummy, I don't know what we want to call it, of course, is the Venerables, the best and second oldest continuous marketing podcast in the world, Marketing Over Coffee.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still going to go fact check that. We still may be the oldest around, but I'll have to see what the internet says.
Yes, the oldest continuously operating. And we have, John, we have over 1,000 pages of podcast episodes. I want to say we're in the 900s for the actual, MP3 files, but over 1,000 pages of stuff that date back to 2007 when you and I were still recording in the Dunks on Route 9 in Natick.
The venerable birthplace.
And so if we were to pull up some of this content just to see what's there from days past, this is a post from 2009. And the media file is there. In fact, I'm guessing, let's see if I click on this link, if it actually, yep, the MP3 still loads, but there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't work anymore.
Dude, that's a huge win. I was expecting the link not to work. So we're at least, providing the content. But yeah, because It's insane over the years. We've had different email service providers. We've had different web hosts. We've had different templates. This is going to be an interesting walk down adventure aisle here.
Yes, it is. And there's a bunch of things, like there's old sponsor blocks. Like this episode from 2009 was brought to you by Blue Sky Factory, which hasn't existed since 2012, when it was bought by What Counts, which was bought by J2 Services, then got bought by some other. So it's been like 5 acquisitions, and literally everything about that platform is gone. It is a distant memory of better days in Baltimore, but there's still a sponsor block. We used to have a question of the week thing back then. Have an upcoming event that is long over. In fact, Blog World New Media Expo has been gone.
The enemy, yes.
Props to Marketing Profs. Marketing Profs still going strong 20 years later. We've got Link's theme song. We've got an old block here that does nothing, and then a sign up for the Marketing Over Coffee newsletter, which is from Blue Sky Factory, that has not worked in 15 years.
Yeah, the get your coffee delivered too. I'm trying to remember what that was. That was something. I think at some point you could sign up via RSS and it would email the show to you.
Yes, with FeedBurner.
Okay, so that was a FeedBurner thing, which has also been gone for like 10 years now.
Exactly. So today's topic is, how do we automate content transformation? How do we make new stuff out of the stuff we've already got? And in this case, also fix stuff up. But the key word here is automate. I could, and any one of us could, just hit the edit button, go in here, and be presented with, oh my God, there's all the cruft from very, very long ago. Some things that would be nice would be if we could get a transcript from that episode on the site. We've talked about that in past episodes. The MP3 exists. This was show 122, but neither of us want to download 900 episodes. That sounds terrible. What could you do with that? You could send it to a transcription service if you had the audio, pass it over, and then come bring it back and upload it back to the site. But that's still work. What we want to do ideally is not, once we get a system set up, we don't want to see it again. We just want to say, you know what? You do it, and I'll check back in with you when you're done. So how would we do this? A couple of different ways. First, we have to think about where we have services that we could use to do some of these transformations. And some of them are free, some of them are not free. And then how do we orchestrate it? How do we make it happen? So from just this one episode, John, what things would you like to be able to do?
Yeah, I think, like you said, transcripts is obviously a way that would really beef up the content. I mean, the one thing that's a little bit weird is so I had done a project like 5 or 6 years ago where we were going through episodes, and we found that like more than 70% of the shows are topics that are now just dead and gone and irrelevant. So I think there's a portion of episodes that probably need to actually be deleted because it's just wrong info. I don't know. Well, and like your opinion on that too. I mean, that's just me talking, but maybe there's no value to doing that. Maybe for historical value and for geo and SEO, it's still worth keeping. But yeah, transcripts. And then the other one is just clean up all the garbage. Like I would like to have all of the any weird old email forms out and have everything be the new email form. And like you said, the sponsor blocks is another weird thing. Like there's a couple of duct tape and chicken wire things behind the scenes where there are certain sponsors that get redirected to other places and things like that, but it's by no means any kind of system. It's like I said, it's just literally like when somebody yells about it, I go and, jury rig something. So something more formal on that front would be cool too.
So that means that we would need to make use of the CMS itself to be able to do a lot of the modifications. And you can do that programmatically. WordPress, which is the site this system is built on, and the company that we host with, WP Engine, has what's called an SSH gateway. Now, this is nerd speak for a command line tool, like a terminal, could connect via a secure connection directly to WP Engine, directly to the website itself, and manipulate WordPress so it can download a post, edit it, and upload a post. You would do that in terminal, get the old 1980s war game style interface and bring that up. And that is sort of the secret to that word automate. When we talk about automating content transformation, is do you have connectors that can connect to and from your AI system or whatever system is you want to design? The good news is, for example, a host like WP Engine, Cloudflare, many other content delivery networks and content management systems all have either command line tools or APIs. That would be prerequisite number one, because we absolutely positively have to have some way to programmatically grab posts, edit them, and then send them back. The second thing we would need access to is some form of AI, ideally something that has a smart language model behind the scenes, something like a Claude Code or what have you. But you also might want to have a lightweight language model that can do grunt work, like in this post text, identify the sentence that is the sponsor message and replace it with a WordPress shortcode so that you just have to maintain the sponsor block in one section in the site. And on every page, the sponsors update as people come and sponsor the show, because then you can say, hey, sponsor, you don't just get this episode. For while you are an active sponsor, you get run of site. And oh, by the way, when you stop paying, you go away. You don't. And if you want to pay for a perpetual listing in the site, there's an added package for that. So we would need a language model of some kind to tie into it. And then the third are the different services that would do those kinds of transformations. So if you just wanted a raw transcript of the words themselves, there's so many choices. There's local models like Parakeet or Whisper. There's cloud models, every big tech AI company. If you want transcription that also has what's called diarization, which means you separate the speakers by who is speaking, you're going to have more specific services, Otter, for example, or Fireflies, or there's a gazillion of them. But what you're looking for there are, again, vendors that have some kind of text-based connector, because if you can connect your Claude Code or your Open Code or what have you to that vendor via a command line tool, via text environment, then AI can just steer. It can say, hey, I'm going to upload this MP3. You're going to transcribe it. Tell me when it's done. Send me the thing back, and I will then be able to do stuff with it. If you wanted to do things like audiograms, again, there's 1.5 million services that do audiograms now. which one of those have a command line tool. So what I would suggest as part of anyone's MarTech audit is to just go to Google in AI mode. You can ask something along the lines of, which audiogram production companies have a text-based command line tool or CLI that I can use with agentic AI. So if I tap on AI mode, it's going to give me things like, hey, none of them do, suckers. However, there's an open source version called Remotion that says if you, which by the way, this is like really bad news for Headliner and Descript and all those companies. Y'all should have command line interfaces for AI
already. Yeah.
There's this free open source one called Remotion Audiogram that integrates with your agentic workflows, React-based programmatic framework, high-quality customized audiogram videos entirely by the command line, driven by text commands. I didn't know this existed. I feel kind of silly that I didn't.
This is the internet. Every day there's a new one.
Let's see. Deepgram, classic open source, New York Public Radio audiogram. So now we have an answer. We have this is something that we could add into it. So now how do we start thinking about all this? Our next step would be to write up a project plan of some kind that a tool like ChatGPT work, OpenAI Codex, Google Anti-Gravity, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, any of those could build for us. So let's start a new document. And this is just a text editor, nothing fancy, nothing special. I'm going to say, today we are going to build a content management system. The local programming language is Python, and you'll find all the coding standards in the docs folder. What we want to do is connect to our website, marketingovercoffee.com, via the WordPress command line tool, WP-CLI, which is already set up as a authorized user of the SSH gateway, so it can grab, download, edit, and upload WordPress posts. We'll also have access to the Remotion tool, which makes audiograms. We'll have access to Fireflies, the transcription company, via the Fireflies command line tool. And our goal today is to do a few different things. First, download all the episodes, the text files, and find the MP3 links in them. 2, make sure the MP3 links have the correct libsyn URLs for modernity. 3, download the MP3 files, store them locally. 4, send each MP3 file to the Fireflies transcription service to be transcribed programmatically, and then return the transcript in plain text format and store it locally, probably in something like a SQLite database. 5, fix the WordPress post itself to remove mentions of old sponsors, which are always denoted with a sentence, something along the lines of this episode brought to you by, or this episode sponsored by, with a WordPress shortcode that we can programmatically change later. 6, we'll add the transcript cleaned up back to the post at the end of the post so that we don't lose the existing show notes, because we want to preserve what's already there. 7th, we'll upload the post back to WordPress and make sure that it looks okay. That's our process. We should probably make sure that we add in documentation. So if I go into today's episode, which is, where am I here? Marketing Over Coffee. I want to make sure I have my documents folder. And I need to add in my Python tools. Okay. And that's, so now I have my Python rules, which I'll want to put in here. And we want to tell it how to get to remotion. And we want to tell it how to get to fireflies. Fireflies has already been authorized on this computer. Now we'll finally finish up this general project plan with ask me up to 20 clarifying questions using your brainstorming superpowers until you have enough information to succeed at this task. What did I forget?
The only thing, there are episodes that have transcripts already on them. So keeping an eye for that would be one thing. And the newsletter subscription forms.
Yes, that's right. Forgot about that. All right. Let's see. You will also see expired sections in posts leading to the old feed burner distribution sections, which is gone. That software hasn't existed in some time. And you will also see very old Blue Sky Factory newsletter subscription forms. Those haven't existed in a long time and need to be removed and replaced. Now, on the website, there should be the new newsletter, right? Which is where people can...
just goes to a Google form.
Okay, which goes there. All right. This is where users should be sent. All right. What else did we forget?
That's everything it would be interesting to know which episodes don't have images, because from the old content management system, basically I think all the image links are broken.
Okay. Well, let's add that in. Why not? Part of your work will be a content audit to identify missing things like missing images within the episode so that we know we'll have to go back and generate others later. We're not going to create those images now, but we do want to flag them for use. Replacement. Okay, what else?
That's definitely as much of the mess as I know today.
All right. So the best practice here is in this kind of environment. Let me touch SP.D. We'll put all of that foaming at the mouth into what's called a recipe file. And this is just a plain text file, but it contains all the information that we would need. Oh, I forgot to tell. Feel free to use your web search tools to obtain any missing information. Once you have come up with the plan, have the advisor review it. All right, so now we can go into our coding tool of choice using Claude Code here. Let's do a new session. And now we do the extremely boring read and run recipe.md. And the reason that we keep that recipe file in a text file instead of just as an ad hoc prompt is when you restart a coding agent a lot of the time or do a new task, it forgets the original ask. Like it builds all these elaborate plans like, oh, I've got to do this, got to do this. And, 25 minutes later, it's doing something else. You're like, what are you doing? Like, go back and read the recipe. It's like, oh, you're absolutely right. This is a content management system and not, a chicken cooking timer. I'm like, how did that happen? But it'll probably have a chance to go through and read any existing project materials because it, as part of the prep for today's episode, it was a lot of messy stuff and getting software connected. But once that's all done, now it can just ask me the questions that it wants answers to before it likely builds the software to do this task. And that is the other part of this automating content transformation. We don't want an AI tool like a Claude Code or a Claude Cowork to be doing the actual work, because that AI usage, especially now, is more expensive than ever, right? There's no shortage of companies have burned through their entire coding budget, in 2 months for the whole year. So what we want to do is instead we want to encourage our AI tools to build us the software we need that will then turn into a thing that we can run and rerun all the time. That way, when a new episode goes up, if this is on a scheduled task to run once a week, it will automatically handle all that processing, and you and I won't have to do it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, not only cleaning up the trash, but less effort going forward.
Exactly. So this may take some time. And by some time, I mean, this is likely to take probably 2 to 4 hours for it to process and think through. But that is sort of the essence of content transformation, is figuring out which tools to connect to, and then figuring out what the process and the flow is going to be.
And then what would be just a general approach? So after it runs those 3 hours, it will come back with basically a package for you that you would just install and set up and have run? Or how would it normally go if it goes as planned?
If it goes as planned, you could either have it be something that lives on your laptop, which for, a hobby show is totally fine. If you were like, Joe Rogan, that wouldn't cut it. Or you could build it. You could direct it to build something that runs full-time on a server, right? That has it lives on the Google Cloud. And I imagine if you're a super high volume podcast, then it's just running every single day, just keeping up, doing maintenance and things like that. Now, let's see, it has questions for me. What questions do you have? The current site has 1,008 to 1,012 published episodes. Given Firefly's transcription cost and time of live editing every WordPress post, how should this pipeline run? Pilot batch first. Yes. Recipe says sponsor sentences denoted with the sentence. Delete sentence, insert new shortcode. Edit sponsor lines inside the transcript. Ooh, I didn't think about that. It's saying, do you want to remove the sponsors from the transcript? Yes, we do. After editing a post, how should it go back to WordPress? Save as a draft for manual review. No, because it would. Well, here's the thing. These posts are already live. So if you were to publish them as drafts, then you would delete the originals.
Right.
So let's do a test of 5 or 10 posts locally to see if the system works. And if it does, then you'll publish directly once we've worked out all the bugs.
How about, I've never used the manual review process. Is that something different? Or that just means what you were just saying is actually.
Yeah, exactly what I was just saying.
It's not, I was thinking there was some kind of WordPress content approval or something, but there's not.
There can be. There actually is a whole approval pipeline process. And it's especially robust in WordPress multi-user, which we don't use. And what's nice about this particular process, especially in Claude, is it's going to keep asking questions. I told it can ask up to 20 questions. One of the things that is new with the current 5th generation models, so Opus 5, Sonnet 5, GPT 5.6, etc., is that they're very agent focused and agentic. So you have to be specific. Say, ask me up to 20 questions so that it knows, I can ask a lot. It says, FeedBurner and Blue Sky Factory both appear 2 ways in the data of boilerplate widget block and one-off editorial mentions. Let's get the widgets and the editorial mentions. MP3 links use 3 different URL patterns. Normalize all to directtraffic.libsyn.com, which is the correct one. 68 posts use the old audio URL shortcode to embed the player. The rest use a plain link. The audio shortcode player hasn't worked in years. Recipe that mentions remotion is available. It's not one of the 7 numbered pipeline steps. In scope, scaffold it.
I do not know what the deal with that is. There is one thing with the show, with the MP3 links, anything in the past 3 or 4 years has to be kept intact because there's all kinds of different ad network tracking things. Like I have to handcraft every show episode now, depending on which of the ad networks it needs to report to.
Interesting. I thought it was all going through traffic.libsyn.com now.
No, I mean, that's where the MP3 file sits. So that's always where it resolves. But there's anywhere from 1 to 5 redirects in front of that where it goes to other ad agencies. It destroys the stats. The stats are a complete disaster all the time.
That's the pod roll stuff too, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly
stuff.
Right. Pod roll, and there's like 3 or 4. It just depends on who the advertiser is. They all use different platforms to track their ads. So if they sponsor a specific episode, that episode has to get routed through. The call has to get routed through that before it ends up at Libsyn.
That seems very complicated.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something we never talk and brag about, but we actually do protect. Unlike most podcasts, our listeners, their privacy is protected. Like the first hit that they do is through our agency, and that's kept anonymous. Like even the agency doesn't know who you are when you're requesting that first hit, and then the agency passes it on to any other ad tools after that. So, and like I said, it makes usually no more than 2 or 3 hops after that before it heads to Libsyn. But okay. It's, if you're an advertiser, you can both get your stats and we can maintain the privacy of listeners. But it just makes it all an ugly mess.
The other thing that, while this is churning away over here, the other thing that you can do is, if you have the time and you have the credits in your AI plan of choice, you can build some of these utilities yourself. So if you wanted to have an audiogram maker that was completely local, I haven't tried Remotion, so I have no idea whether it's any good or not. But I was making one for myself in Python called Byliner. Oh, looks like Claude has more questions. Sponsors need to be removed from the transcript. LM assisted cleanup recommended. Yes. Plain HTML5 audio controls. Match the Libsyn frame used on recent posts. Let's see. Where should the new transcript pipeline data live? New tables in the existing database. The Fireflies, that is fine. So we're going to say, this is fine to use this Fireflies account. And the way we will handle this is that you will load 5 MP3s at a time, wait for Fireflies to transcribe them, get the transcripts back, then delete the MP3s to free up space. And you'll do this in batches of 5 so that we don't overwhelm the system.
Yeah, because it is totally storage based, isn't it? Like you can keep it grinding 24/7 as long as you don't let the recordings pile up, right?
Exactly. So that will let it work within the boundaries of that system. There are other systems that are just like per minute per month, like you have so many minutes per month,
right?
And that's another area where it's not a bad idea to have a local version. So in another thing, I've got a Python project that I'm working on to do that diarized output, to fix basically to create those diarized audio transcripts, so I don't have to rely on a service at all, particularly for old material, old stuff that you don't really want to spend money on if you can avoid it. If you can just spend compute power. But this is an example of the Byliner, and I'll just put that on screen. That you can't hear the audio to it, but it's just an old episode. And so it's using the audiograms to create the waveforms, and then it sticks the captions in the bottom.
Oh, all right. Yeah, this is just this week. Gary Palmatier from Red Argo.
Yeah, exactly. So this takes something from a style guide I was messing with and has a Python script in the back end that essentially says, okay, here's the audio file, turn it into this style of audiogram and make it an MP4, which is a video. There is a free open source project. Let's see if I still have it up here. It is called U2. Let's go to the GitHub repository that allows you to programmatically control your YouTube channel. So you wouldn't do this. You would install the software, which is free. It's open source. You would security check it, obviously, with your coding agent of choice. And then you would give it to a tool like Claude Code to say, okay, once you've generated an audiogram, here's the target YouTube channel, generate the title, generate the description, generate the tags, maybe make some cover art, and then programmatically push that video to YouTube. So, and maybe even schedule it. So if you want to do like, a best of Marketing Over Coffee 2009, you could push, all 52 episodes from that year into YouTube. And the key about this with a tool like the local generations is, again, you don't do this manually. Like, this is all handled by machines, because this is grunt work.
Yeah, right. This is the worst of the worst.
It really is. It's just terrible laboring for things that are a proven process. So that's when we talk about automating content transformation. This is the overall process. If you have an agent tool that can essentially write the programming, the software for you, and you can be super clear about your requirements, you can do a great job. And the framework that we recommend to do this, huge surprise, Katie's not here to talk about it, is the 5P framework by Trust Insights: purpose, people, process, platform, performance. For this kind of project, the purpose is to transform content and also fix up the website, to clean up all the cruft, right? The people is you and me, who don't want to be doing this, but also the audience that might want this information. And it falls into people. It's not people, but by having full transcripts, it will feed AI. It'll feed the machines that are crawling the Marketing Over Coffee website. So that's an audience as well. The process is exactly what I dictated out loud. The platforms are all these different connectors and that we talked about. And then the performance is, did the software do the job and get the final stuff on site? If we were to go back to the Marketing Over Coffee website in 2 weeks, when all this processing is done, is it up to scratch? Do episodes have full transcripts on them? Are the sponsor blocks being replaced by short codes? Do the libs and URLs all work correctly? So all of that would be the performance criteria to say, yes, this did the thing. And then later on, in tools like Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools, we would see an increase in traffic, in impressions, in clicks, in AI citations, because we gave our audience, which includes these machines, much more content to work with.
Yeah, that's just even the fact that it's just less offensive to the eye, less broken stuff lying around, like that's just providing value. But yeah, unlocking the content and cleaning stuff up is huge. And like you said, that's just the most horrible grunt work. So to automate that away is fantastic.
Exactly. So obviously this is not going to finish during this episode or the next episode, or probably the episode after that. This is going to be a very long running project, but this is the overall process, and you will be most successful following the 5P framework by Trust Insights. So once this is done, then we can measure it and see how it goes. But also, this now will give you, as the producer, a lot more leverage with sponsors to say, like, yeah, you got to, if you want your name on still, in the historical archives, you got to keep paying.
Yeah, well, and unfortunately with the vertical that we're in, there's a good 30-40% of them that just don't exist anymore. They were either bankrupted, acquired, became some other tool. Like, there's a lot of just stuff that doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, and this is something that, again, content transformation, theoretically, when you do the host reads in the show, that actually has a different audio signature than when we're recording, because when we're doing two-person, you get different audio signal. You could have a tool that splices the MP3s and then goes back and adds new advertisers.
Yeah, right. Just cuts in a new show. Well, and that's always been, there are a number of networks that do different stuff like that you just tag where the ad goes, and it's always dynamic. In fact, some is dynamically inserted where different listeners get different ads. It can go beyond just the fact that they can be swapped in or out. But as we're talking about this too, this totally gave me an opportunity that I hadn't considered, which is that there's all of these episodes with sponsors who do still exist, that it's pointing to their old event or old white papers that don't matter anymore. I could definitely, just run a list of like, okay, X sponsor, did you know we have 300 pages going to your stuff? Where would you like these links to go today? And, for a nominal fee of, whatever, we can
$1 million.
if you right, for just $1 million, we can point this to somewhere where you can have this track of instead of us being the number one source of 401s to your website. Like, you don't want that.
That's a really interesting point. So if you were to do an outbound link audit SEO tool of all the links that are going from from our site to dead content. In fact, now I'm just curious. Now we're just going to go completely off the reservation here and take a look around. I probably need to retire that term because that's offensive. Let's take a look at our SEO tool. Let's do a site explorer. Let's do marketingovercoffee.com. And let's take a look at outgoing links. And let's look at 404s. All links that are 404s, 165 that are now 404'd.
Yeah, that's not horrible given that's like about what I would expect, which is bad, but not horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The other interesting one too, though, is I hadn't thought of this. You can go to the sponsors too, but you can also go to the competitors. Like, I'm not going to take. That's when I was talking about the duct tape and chicken wire. That's there were times where certain sponsors wanted certain keywords to go to their site, and if they were replaced by another sponsor, those links moved. It went with the sponsor.
Mm-hmm. So this would be the report to feed to a system like Claude to say, oh, by the way, we need to repoint all of these to internal pages or remove the links entirely because they're just dead. They're long gone. And in the database that tracks all this information on the back end, put a field saying like sponsorship opportunity, so that you can then make a report from it to say, hey, for the category of email marketing or for the category of marketing automation software, CRM software, we've got all this stuff in our system we could dynamically repoint if you want to sponsor, a run of site for this particular term or concept.
Yeah, that's it. And I realized too, I've missed a shot I've always been tagging the episodes as podcasts, because it's audio content. That's my first thought. But they should really be tagged as like, if the majority of this episode is about email or a website or branding or, just whatever, having a few extra tags in there makes it easier to categorize that stuff as far as stuff that could be sold later.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is that, and this is more of a general content transformation, you can transform content in reverse directions. So I'll give you a quick example of this. If I go to my YouTube channel, and this is something that I do for myself, if I go to YouTube, I go to content, and I go to an older episode here. Let's see this one here. Yeah, falsifying CRM data. These are my kitchen recordings each week. Of course, the content is there, right? The video is there. But then on my website, what I have is I built a utility that connects to my YouTube channel, grabs the transcript for each episode, and then creates let's see if I can just view this page, creates a blog post with the summary, the YouTube video, key takeaways, and then the transcript. So exactly what we're doing with Marketing Over Coffee. But now, instead of me having to manually do this, because this sucks, I record the videos, and then once a week, I run this utility that syncs it back up with my website so that all of my content that I've been posting on YouTube has a place to live here.
Right. And so the initial YouTube upload, is that through Adobe where that transcript is originally created from, or is YouTube creating the transcript?
So YouTube creates a transcript, and what I do is I grab the YouTube video, and then there's a free utility called FFmpeg that will turn any video file into audio, and then there's a free utility for the Mac called Parakeet that takes an audio file and transcribes it. So I just have it when it downloads the video, it does the transcript, and then my local AI tool, which uses Qwen 3.6 for this, essentially just distills this down into this lovely thing here. And what you get is a nice summary, the key takeaways and stuff, but it's very clearly based on my original human-led work.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's a great way to have a whole chain going. So it's not like all separate mess everywhere.
Right, because this sucks. Like daily content, having to maintain this just is terrible. It's awful. I never want to do it. And for years I did not do it. When I ran this for the first time, it said I have 700 of your videos to go back and catch up on. I'm like, all right, I'll see you in 2 days.
Yeah, right.
But if you've got, and this is a challenge that a lot of marketers have, if you've got content all over the place, this methodology that we're talking about of automated content transformation allows you to sync things up. So if you got podcasts over here and YouTube over there and stuff, we always, and we've been advocating this, you and I have been advocating this for 20 years now. Your content should live on a site you own. It's fine for it to be on YouTube and in those places, but things happen, things change.
Yeah, right. Always fall back. And the great thing is, a site, if someplace goes away, it's all still at your place. And then when the new king shows up, king or queen comes to town, you can just automate pumping the stuff into the new thing. So it's, if you don't have a storage bin of your own, land that you own somewhere, again, becoming the crabby old man yet again, but there's just the landscape is littered with people we've known who became huge on like this platform over here. And, then it died and that was it. They just went back to, Joe in a cubicle after, having made tons of money in certain verticals. So it's real. Like you rise and fall.
Yeah, that you're right. I remember now that you mentioned that, I remember some very big fish and small fish bowls back in the early days of podcasting. You were like Mr. Podcast, and then you had Podcasts Winter for 10 years. They vanished. They're back in a cubicle, and now you have the Joe Rogans of the world. But if you can stay adaptable to the different platforms without having to do all the reworking yourself with agentic tools, you'll save a lot of time and you will keep your content.
Right. Yeah. You stay out in front of the world. And as the new thing comes up, you've at least got content ready to go. You're not starting at zero.
Exactly. So that's automated content transformation. Develop a requirements document, which is essentially software development stuff. Use an agentic system. Use the 5P framework by Trust Insights. Figure out which MarTech tools you have that allow for connectors that are optimized for AI agents. And by that, it's going to be what's called a command line interface, CLI. That's the magic word. Forget MCPs. MCPs suck. Use a CLI because it doesn't consume AI usage. And if a vendor does not have a CLI and a competitor does, think about jumping ship or telling your vendor, hey, you either got to keep up with the times and give us a CLI or give us a rate cut because this other vendor has the thing that makes AI work really well with it. Connect your tools in the requirements document and all the CLIs. Think through the process through user stories and things like we were talking about today, and then let the tools go off and do their thing. And within a week or so, you'll probably have a working system.
I hadn't thought of the angle of skipping the MCP because that just saves you tokens, but that is totally it. Like, why would you use MCP when you've got CLI at no charge?
Exactly. No charge. It's faster. The results are better.
No security threats.
fewer of them anyways. Yes. No one's spying on your work. HubSpot. Anyway, that is going to do it for this week's episode. On next week, I forget what we're talking about next week, but the week after that, we're going to be talking about diagnosing AI writing styles. So make sure you stick around, subscribe to wherever it is you are watching or listening this show, and we will see you all on the next one. Take care. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.